Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Today, I want to have a look at what happens if you're out protesting and the police come along. On the one hand, they seem very friendly, as often they do, and on the other hand, they don't seem quite so friendly and they come in vans and all sorts of things. Well, this happened fairly recently to a bunch of lovely people who were protesting about, I think it's about the Ulez cameras and things like that. Just a natural process, they told the police. And suddenly all hell broke loose. It gets out of hand and 5 have been arrested. One, apparently, for harassing Sadiq Khan. I don't know that that's really an offence these days, but let's find out from the people. Now, I'm talking to Nick and Dawn, who are representing the Tooting 5. They're up in Tooting in London. Welcome to the show. Hello, Dawn and Nick.
Hiya, good morning, afternoon.
That's it, wherever we are. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Now, I'm not 100% au fait with the situation, but you're going to hopefully explain what happened. So am I right that you were protesting, or the Tooting 5 they've now been known as you've got a sign there, because of the Ulez cameras and the unfair system that's in place?
Yeah, we've been protesting for up to that about 18 months, continuous. Right. We've been up to London. I think, in fact, someone counted it out. We've had about 80 different protests. And, like historically, we've never had a problem with the police. We don't cause problems. We never have done. And we were, as far as we was aware, where we were going to be, we would have the same sort of attitude. And we turned up. As say, the police were well aware that we were going to be there, and we turned up before 12. We started setting up, and in fact, a couple of the local police officers, friendly as normal. We had a laugh with them. We have no problem whatsoever with them, and we never have done.
It was just like the normal when they were coming in and asking, how long are you going to be here? What time are you going to be leaving? And basically make sure that you tidy up when you leave.
Yes.
Which is what we've always done.
Right. Yeah. Just what you would normally expect.
We don't even leave a wire tie. I mean, we absolutely clear up. We have never been a problem. It's like, historically, absolutely no trouble with the police whatsoever. But on this occasion, say we had the local ones, they'd turned up, no problem. But then we had people arriving to join the demonstration that were telling us that the back roads around there were absolutely full of police cars, vans, and motorbikes. Well, we'd been there for about an hour, and all of a sudden, the police presence increased dramatically.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, they were filling the roads.
And how many of you sorry to interrupt. How many of you were there, more or less?
80.
Yeah, 80. Yeah,
right. Not masses, but a significant number.
Yeah. But say peaceful. Not doing anything. I do understand, and I will say this, that someone, nothing to do with us, actually let a smoke bomb over the other side of the road, and absolutely nothing to do with us, because that's not a thing we do. Right? No. So we are there peacefully. We're then told that the police are gathering in the back roads, and then they turn up and tell us we have to leave. Well, obviously there was a few arguments, nothing violent, nothing. I don't even think anybody raised their voice, but there was a little bit of remonstrating. Well, we've done it before. What is the problem? Yes. No, you've got to go. You've got to go. We started clearing up. Yeah. And okay, there was no timeline given. This is a big thing with me, is that the police never said, if it, say for instance, it was 1 o'clock, they never said by 1:30 or 1:15 you have to leave. They just said you've got to leave, which we were doing. So people were clearing up stuff, rolling up banners. A lot of those banners and that, actually I delivered there, and I had a car parked right in their road. And that was where they was going to be sort of loaded back into the vehicle. So why this was happening, I'm just standing filming. That's all I'm doing. I never tried to cross a police line or anything like that.
Well, the police line was right across the road, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there was nobody attempting to walk through. No, actually, one person did, and we've got this on footage. one person got into a little bit of an argument with one of the policemen, and I actually went. I saw him. I don't even know who he is, to be honest. And I had a quick word with him, and I pulled him away because obviously it was going to be no trouble as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
And so I walked back across the road, and I'm standing filming, and then all of a sudden this. It turns out quite a senior police officer came over to me and asked me very politely, and me being a polite person, I followed him. He said, "Could you please come across the road and have a word with this officer?" So I did, and then it was a WPC. Said, "I'm arresting you under section 42A," and I pardon for what? And as I said it, she tried to snatch my phone out of my hand. Now, as far as I'm concerned, she has no legal right. Well, she hasn't. She has no legal right to do that whatsoever. Even though I was under arrest, we weren't searched or anything, and that was that was my own possession in my hand. She tried to grab it, so I put my hand above my head to fight to ask people. I was shouting out, "Can someone take my phone?"
Right.
And I have no idea how many coppers actually jumped onto me.
It was at least 8, 9, 10 even. And then they surrounded you, didn't they? So that we couldn't see what they were doing inside. Like you sort of like seeing what's going on now when they arrest one person. You've got about 4 or 5 coppers on this one person, and the rest of them are all standing around protecting, so you can't see what they're actually doing. But
yes.
they knocked Nick down to the ground. I was hiding. I wasn't hiding. I was in the pub. One of my friends was a bit concerned, so we got her out for safety reasons because she was worried, and we were watching it all from the side of the pub, and it was just unbelievable what we were watching.
I mean, the force they use, I think there's the little bit about being proportionate within the law.
No.
Right.
And this totally was completely over the top. The amount of force they used on myself, obviously, I didn't witness. I've seen it on video since, but I didn't witness. I did, physically at the time, and see what happened to the others, because the way they pushed my arms up my back was extremely painful. Handcuffed me behind, which I don't quite understand. I'm not a violent criminal. I wasn't acting violently, but they chose to do it that way. And then they marched me off and put me in the back of the van. And I must have been there. God, I think before we left, must have sat there for at least half an hour in a very hot van. And I actually in a little cubicle, and I said to one of the police guys, I shouted, "Can you please open the door? Because I'm cooking in here."
Yes.
And then Morgan was put in beside me, also handcuffed. Now, obviously, since then, I've seen the video footage of him being arrested, and again, extremely violently. So we're not violent.
Well, again, sorry, Nick.
Right.
Again, I was standing in the pub area, looking through a metal gate, and I saw the police officer. Well, Martin was standing there with a rolled up banner under his arm and a placard that he's had forever. He did it ages and ages ago. It's been like his trademark. That's the one he carries, and that's the one that people recognise him by. And then the next thing I know, I can actually hear him actually screaming in excruciating pain because they're putting his arm up his back. Now, Martin has a heart condition, and I sort of like saw red, and I thought, right, I'm going to have to go out, and I'm going to have to go and speak to the officer and just say to him, look, he's got a heart condition. Can you be a little bit more
lenient,
sensible? Right.
Yeah.
But they actually slammed him up against the wall, grazed the side of his face. I went over to the police officers that were with him, and I think there was either 4, 5, possibly 6. There was also a news reporter there that was taking pictures of what he was seeing. And I said to the police officer that were arrested, can you just be really careful? He's got a heart condition. I don't want anything to happen to him. And they said to me, oh, you need to speak to Commander Bronze 13. So I said, well, who's that then? So he said, it's that policeman over there. So off I went, and I said to him, I said, excuse me, I said, that man that you're bullying about down on the floor down there, I said he has a heart condition. And Bron's 13, and I tell you what, it's in my head. He said to me, if I don't move away, he was going to have me arrested. So I did nothing else. I just put my hands up in the air and I stepped back. And I said, if anything happens to my husband, you are the person that I'm coming after.
Right. Wow.
And
I've got to point out, I mean, as much as I never witnessed these, you know, there is so much footage to tell you what happened with the others. Two of the others, particularly Lloyd, that was arrested, was literally, again, standing filming when he was marched away. Kevin, who is, I'm not sure exactly how old Kevin is. I think he's a bit younger than me, actually, but he's extremely frail. I mean,
dementia.
He's got, and I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning this, he has Parkinson's, he has dementia, and he is a diabetic. He was literally holding himself up on a cycle rail, you know, one of these metal cycle rails where you have people nicking your bike. He was holding himself up by that. And these coppers yanked at him. So what he obviously held on, which you would do because you were going to lose your balance.
Yes.
And then he was arrested for obstructing a police officer. Well, he wasn't doing anything. No. He was with Ali, who is also the one female that got arrested that day. She had been dressed, and it might sound odd if you don't know anything about the anti-Ulez protest, she was dressed up as a dinosaur. And she was sitting on the floor, basically doing what the police had asked. She had taken the suit off, and she was putting her boots back on after, because if she can't be moving with her boots on.
Yeah.
When they told her to get up, you've got 3 seconds to get up. Well, she didn't even have her boots on. She was trying to do that. Now, at the time, she had a brace on her arm because she had an injury, and another brace on her leg because she had an injury. And while she was sitting on the floor trying to get her boots on, they pulled her arms up her back and
they pulled her hair.
Yeah, pulled her hair.
They pulled her hair.
Pulled her hair, screamed. Oh, one thing, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. When they arrested Kevin, so this very slight, frail man who was hanging on, trying to keep his balance, this police officer is evidenced.
He what? Sorry.
His right thumb. It's all documented. So you can see this in the footage quite clearly.
So she dug her nails into it.
Yeah, that was a man.
Oh, was it a man?
Yeah, it was a man what done it.
Right.
The man that grabbed his right hand and bent his thumb right the way back, gripped him so hard, stuck the police stuck their nails so far into him, he was bleeding profusely after that and had to get first aid treatment.
My goodness.
This is a very fragile man.
Yes.
And they take him off like that.
If it had been a normal situation, and I still stick by what I said about this, if they had been normal police officers, they would have said to him, "Sir, we need to take you away from this. You're quite frail. Are you okay?" But what they did to that man is unbelievable. And then to laugh and joke about arresting his dog, that was just absolutely. He was actually holding on to Ali's dog, and they actually said, "Oh well, we might as well arrest the dog as well." And they arrested the dog.
I think the point about all this is that Khan has obviously he doesn't like what we do. You know, he's made that clear. We have annoyed him, no doubt, over the last 18 months. We've been to loads of protests. We've turned up at the City Hall, I don't know on how many occasions, and we've heckled him. We went to a meeting he had in Ealing, God knows how long ago. Same thing there, heckled him. This was when he came out with the rubbish. I don't know if you remember when he started, people saying that there were swastikas and stuff on display that was all far right. I don't know if you remember that occasion.
Not personally, but go on anyway.
Well, that was at Ealing Town Hall, and the media had a field day in saying that it was the far right and Nazis were out.
He called us Nazis, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, the thing that actually instigated that, because I was there. Right, yes. So this is not a hearsay. This is fact. Right? There was one man in the crowd that had a placard that had a World Economic Forum symbol on it. and this man had put a Nazi, a swastika over the top of it, obviously indicating, as far as he was concerned, that the WF are Nazis.
Yes.
So it was actually nothing to do with what we were doing. And I actually approached the man and I said, "You're going to get us a bad name doing that because people will misconstrue what you're doing. Take it down, please go away," which he did. But by then, of course, the media
it was too late.
Yes. Yeah. So Carl knows us. He doesn't like us, and I think, in my honest opinion, this was a little bit of vindictiveness on his part to have us, to stop what was have been peaceful protests. He has made a point from day one of the anti-Ulez protest of trying to convince the public that there was no backlash, that everybody was quite fine with this. Well, we weren't, and we were making a democratically allowed voice to be heard in a peaceful manner.
Because it's basically it was sort of like really the last protest that we were going to have before the actual mayoral elections.
Right. Gosh,
I think that probably in his mind was, I've got to get these guys now, because if I'm not re-elected, which I know he always said that he was going to be elected, this is my chance to get them. This is my last opportunity. And I'll tell you what, he came down on us hard. We were not expecting what he did. Even after the guys had gone away, we didn't know where they were. We hadn't been told where they were. The local police they came back out of hiding. Even they said, "We don't know what's gone down here today. This was out of our hands." He said, "We just really don't know." Anyway, lucky enough, one of them was really kind enough to find out where the guys had been taken to, and for some reason he said, "Well, they've been taken to Charing Cross," and we don't understand why Charing Cross. It's a terrorist centre, as far as where they put the terrorists in Charing Cross. These were.
So just to clarify that, then, so the local police were there initially, and they were all fine because they'd seen you before, and they were just doing their job, and then this other sort of super squad of bully police came. Do you know where they? Hundreds of them. Do you know where they came from?
No idea. Police? They came from all over London.
See, this is a problem also I have, is that. So they had prior knowledge, and they had allowed us to set up. They had already been a decision, I believe, because of the amounts that were there. I mean, those hundreds that turned up were not sitting eating their breakfast that morning when they got a call. This was prior arranged. It was absolutely, it was a setup to get us there.
It was entrapment.
Well, that's how we see it. It was total entrapment. And say, peaceful, absolutely doing nothing wrong. We were leaving as we were requested, even though we weren't happy about it, but we were leaving when they decided to start arresting us. And can I add something here? Get me thrown out of the way. Sorry.
That's okay.
Can I add one thing? Now, I don't know if you're aware that Sadiq Khan bought a book out called Breathe. Quite some
I have,
time
yes,
back.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it, and I clearly haven't read it.
Well, he has now republished it, adding a chapter at the end just to deal with, and relate to the anti-Ulez protests. Right? And now, I mean, if this isn't a little bit of trying to manipulate the public, I don't know what it is. In this book, it is just a sequence of lies that he's been allowed to publish. Several of the lies are that we were outside his house, and these are the words of the book, that we had targeted his wife and family. Absolute lie, total and utter lie. No proof whatsoever of that, because it's never happened. So that's a lie. He also stated that he received a bullet in the post, implying that someone from the anti-Ulez movement would have sent him a bullet. Now, I don't remember any reports about that at the time that it happened, but this all of a sudden it comes out, and according to him, the police issued an Osman warning, which is a fear of life.
Yes.
Again, this wasn't mentioned anywhere until now in this book. He also says that this sounds so pathetic, I know, But there was a caravan that was called the Carnivan that was parked up quite some distance from his house. And according to him, it was near his house, implying that, it could have been right outside, but it's near his house. And it had swastikas on it, which is a total and utter lie. And we have so much proof that that is a total and utter lie. But this man has been allowed to put these falsehoods, lies, sheer lies, in his book to try to paint us as being thugs, as though we've done, something that we haven't done. So we've never done that. We've never been. Obviously, we don't like the man for what he's done, but we've never physically threatened him in any way, shape, or form. No. And we've had a lot of opportunity to do that, but we've never done it. We've called names, obviously. Why wouldn't you? I mean, I won't repeat what I've said to him. But I think that's quite understandable.
People. I mean, people. In a free society, people are allowed to have strong opinions, and they can word those however they like. I mean, sticks and stones break people's bones, but that's something. Exactly, and we've lived by that. But clearly, it's got under his skin. So go back to the arrest. What happened then? You're in the van on a scorching hot day, and so what happened? There was 5 of you, was it, that was arrested?
There was 5 that were arrested. There was actually 3 of us in one van. That was me, myself, and Martin was in the little cubicle next to me. Lloyd has a few mobility problems as well, and they allowed him to sit in the front, so he actually could have a seatbelt. But myself and Martin were in the back of this van. So from there, I don't know how many miles it is to Charing Cross Police Station, being thrown about in the back of this van with our hands up our back, not being able to support ourselves. And it was extremely painful. And when we then arrive at Charing Cross, we're then taken out of the van and we're put into a cage outside. And I personally managed to persuade one of the officers there, could you actually take my handcuffs off from the back and put them on the front? As you can see, I'm no threat. And thank you very much. They did that. We were then very, very slow process, but one at a time, we were led into the custody suite. And when I went there, obviously the arresting officer, the WPC, she's there. Now the charging officer or the custody officer asks the then arresting officer why I am there. Why am I standing in front of him? For what? This policewoman then said that I had been arrested for stopping the access of an emergency vehicle, a fire engine, and for blocking the roads.
Well, the only fire engine was our one.
Yeah, so it's total utter fabrication. And I actually questioned. I said, "Well, wait a minute." I said, "Where did you get that from? Who told you that? Because you couldn't have seen it because it didn't happen. So who told you?" It's another officer. I said, I noticed obviously there's a load of CCTV around in there. I'm making a point. You're a liar. You're a total and utter liar because that never happened. So there was no mention of 42A while I'm there. Apparently, I'm blocking the roads, which there is so much evidence that never happened. Not only from our own footage, but I assure you,
from the police footage.
Yeah, they will have loads of body cams. Plus, they had an official cameraman there.
They had 2, didn't they?
Yeah,
official cameramen walking around taking pictures. And the other one's walking around with a rucksack on his back. And according to when we asked about that, what that was being done is it was actually being sent to a central point so they could see if there was any trouble escalating.
Right. So it was sort of live streaming so they could bring in more forces.
To a central
control
office, whatever. I don't really know the technical terms for it. But again, we've not seen any of that. We don't know what's...
No.
But you may get footage of a few people telling them to F off,
Yes.
I should imagine there's one of me doing that as well. But nevertheless, we had agreed to leave. We were leaving.
We were packed up and ready to go.
Yeah. Again, no violence. There never has. Historically, no violence ever.
Well, Martin was standing on the corner of the road where there was like about I'd say about 12 coppers lined up down this road. And a woman police officer came up and said to him, if you stand there, once the police line has moved forward, you can go back to your car. And as I say, it didn't happen to me. I'm only saying what Martin has told me. And he said the next thing I know, well, we gave him a nickname, and I shouldn't actually say it because it's not very nice. He just went for him. He just went for him like a madman. It was like he'd lost all control. And as I say, Martin has a heart condition.
Yes.
Once Martin had gone and we knew where he went, I had to go home to get Martin's medication because I didn't know how long they were going to keep him. They basically said we could be coming around your house, we could be raiding your house. We didn't know what was happening. I went home and got Martin's medication, and I came back on the train down to Charing Cross, and I literally said to everybody, whatever you do, don't stop me. I've got to get these tablets to Martin. I've got all his medication there. I went in, I spoke to the custody, what they have, the front desk. I spoke to them at the front, and they said, oh, you need to speak to the custody sergeant. You need to go onto that phone over there. So I said, okay, I'll go. I phoned the number. Well, they gave me a number, and we tried it, and it wasn't answering. It wasn't actually ringing, but they then gave us a telephone number, which I then rang. And I spoke to this custody sergeant, and I said, oh, I was the wife of Martin Whitehead. I'd got his medication. Can somebody get them to him because he's going to need them?
Yeah.
And he said, well, hang on a second, I'll just check. Anyway, he came out and he said to me, well, he's not here. I said, well, what do you mean he's not here? I said, I've been told that he's here. He said, well, he's not in my suite. He's not here. So I said, well, where is he then? I said, I've been told that he is here.
Yes.
And he said, well, he might still be out in the yard outside. So I said, well, is it possible that you could go and check for me? And he said, well, that's not my job. That's not my job. He said, I'm only here for processing. And I said, but how can you process someone if I don't know if they're here? I said, if he's not here, I need to go where he is.
Yes.
I said, well, thank you very much. You've been extremely helpful. Not. And I sort of slammed the phone down. And as we were walking away, an off-duty police officer, plainclothes, came in. And I grabbed him and I said to him, excuse me. I said, my husband's been arrested. I said, can you possibly check to see if he's here? I said, I've been told by your custody sergeant that he isn't here. So he said, well, give me his medication. And he said, and I'll take it through. And I went, I'm not giving you his medication till at least I know he's here.
Yes.
He said, well, take a seat over there. He said, I'll go and see if I can find him. Anyway, he came back about 5-10 minutes later and said, yeah, he said, I found Martin Whitehead, tall guy with grey hair. So I said, yeah, that's him. And I gave him the medication. And he was there.
Brilliant.
The custody sergeant had said to me, he's not here because he hadn't been processed and it wasn't his job to check.
Obviously, I can only speak for my own, what happened to me. When I was at the custody desk, it was mentioned about getting a duty sergeant, a duty solicitor. And I went, no, actually, yeah, I will. Yeah, why not? But I never saw anyone. They never came. They put me in a cell. I think it's a sort of little psychological game they play because they put you in a cell. There is absolutely there's obviously no light. You have no idea of time whatsoever. I was sort of sitting there. It was quite cold. Someone came in and they said, do you want a drink? And I said, yeah, what you got? And they said, do you want a coffee? So yeah, I'll have a cup of coffee. What about food? I said, well, obviously I'm hungry. You've had me for a couple of hours now. And they gave me a chocolate brownie. So I got a cup of coffee and a chocolate brownie in 8 hours. And I know that sounds pathetic to whinge about that. But I do think it's a little bit of a game they play because they leave you there knowing you are totally isolated. and you'd completely lose track of time. I couldn't have told you whether I'd been there an hour or 5 hours. I really couldn't, because there is no sound, there is no natural light, there's nothing, and you just sit there with a camera above you, knowing that they're watching exactly what you're doing. It's bright in there, you can't shut your eyes, you can't relax. And occasionally some person would open the flap and say, "Are you all right?" And I'd say, "No." But I won't say, "No, I'm not all bloody right. No, when am I getting out of it? Oh, it'll be soon, it'll be soon." Well, they must have done that 3 or 4 times. It's a little game, so to disorientate you, so you don't know what's going on. And I'm there. I wasn't aware that what had happened to the others. I didn't know what time it was. It was getting cold. I didn't have a jumper on, just a t-shirt, and I didn't know what I was going to come out to. As far as I was aware, I was going to come out to an empty road, and got to sort of make my way home. And I lost. Charing Cross, big deal. I don't use public transport, so I was concerned, but luckily, I mean, they let me out the back, and I walked the way round the front, and it was crowded. It was crowded, and it was one of the nicest sights I think I've ever seen. People, Kingsley, who's part of the movement, and you'll see him in the footage, actually asking people to clear up at the day. He'd bought his London bus, his old Route Master bus stand. There was loads of people on, and there was one person from the press. People had come for miles just to wait outside for us, and it was, and I love it now. Thinking back on it, it was so nice to see the unity that people, that people had come together because they're so indignant about what went on that day.
We was actually there. We was there because we didn't know how long they were going to be held for, and we were actually getting to the point where some of them were going to go home, so some of us could stay, and then they would come back in the morning, so that those that had stayed overnight could go home. Because again, we were given no information as to how long, what they were being charged with, or anything. There was
how long? How long were you in there in the end?
Well, 8 hours.
Yeah, it was about 10 o'clock, I think, 10 o'clock at night when I came out.
And they started letting you out, didn't it?
Yeah.
So they let you out in dribs and drabs. Lloyd came out first. Then I think Ali came out with the dog. Then Martin came out, and you and Kevin came out last, at the end.
Yeah, we were the last ones out. So say about 8 hours in total, we were in custody, and we were given police bail to attend. The other week we had to come. It was a couple of weeks ago now. We had to go back. And in all honesty, I thought when we had to go back to Charing Cross, they were going to say no further action. So it was quite a shock when they actually charged us. So 4 of us with harassing Sadiq Khan. And I have to mention that, I mean, I've read the laws on harassment, and particularly this one. You have to be present for a start. Now, the man wasn't even present that day.
Well, not that we know of.
No, he wasn't. No, we knew. We checked his diary. We know he wasn't there. He was actually, and there's photographic evidence of this as well. He was actually up in Trafalgar Square at a Sikh ceremony. There was some event organised by Sikhs up there. He wasn't even there. So how could we possibly have harassed him? If they'd charged us with harassing his family, I shouldn't say this because they might change it. Maybe, but the man wasn't even there. Yes. So how on earth can you affect someone that's not even in the vicinity? And see, this is another thing. The charge says that we were in the vicinity. Now, try to find a legal definition of vicinity. There isn't one. It could be a mile. It could be 100 miles. It could be 2 foot. There is no definition. So to say you're in the vicinity of somewhere is a catch-all thing. We had made it very, very, very clear. Couldn't have been clearer that we had no intention whatsoever of going near his house.
Not that we knew where it was.
We only assume we know his house. We don't know for sure. We have actually done a protest.
Well, if it's going by what he's put in the back of his book about we parked caravan outside his house, that is 0.8 miles away from where we were.
Right.
So
okay.
I don't know whether that counts in the vicinity of, but the thing was, there was no way we would get down to that house because the police had totally totally blocked
but
the road.
But even before that, we had made it clear, we were going nowhere. It was a purely static protest on a junction, on a main junction, not near his house, in Thursdown. I mean, if you look down the road, the house that I think he lives in, the same, but we've never had it confirmed.
We couldn't see it from there anyway.
Well, you can just about see it in the distance. As I say, it seems to me that. So we're in the vicinity there, according to them, of his house. Yet the caravan or carnivan was right down. In fact, it wasn't even in his road. It was in West Drive, which is next to Tooting Common, which I would guesstimate about a quarter of a mile away. But they can't have it both ways. Were we near his house then, or was the caravan near his house?
Yes,
it's not the same positions.
So they've charged you with harassing Sadiq. What happened after that? Is it a fine, or you've got a court case coming up?
No. See, this is the problem. Okay, we got a friend, an advisor, who's a magistrate. So we've asked him, what are the tariffs involved in this? Well, there seems to be 3 offences. There's a summary offence. There is something that's called, what is it, sort of like one or the other, or some stupid expression. No, either way, that's it. Either way, or an indictable offence. Okay. Now, a magistrate can't deal with certain offences. They can only do some. So we don't know whether we are actually allowed to go, because we're all going to plead not guilty. We want to go for trial. We want to go to a Crown Court. So if we go to a Crown Court, this is obviously set there to deter you, option for that. The penalties are far greater if you go to Crown Court and are found guilty.
If you're found guilty.
Yeah, we don't know what they are. We don't know. I mean, we've heard, you could get a year inside. But it's just unbelievable. And I have to mention, when I see what else is going on around at the moment and what people are being allowed to get away with, this bit about, I think we're the first example of 2-tier policing. It's the buzz phrase these days, but I think we're the first example of it, because the last demo we done was we actually did another one after that, but we done one in Trafalgar Square, and a pro-Palestinian march came past. I mean, this march was huge. It must have taken an hour just to file past us. But loads of them carrying the "Rivers to the Sea" slogan on placards and shouting it, and I complained a fair amount. Believe me, I'm not polite when I see injustice like that, and I did have a few words with a few police officers about it. And the last one that I confronted about it said, "Why are you not doing something? They are, there's anti-Semitic, wording there on these things, blatantly anti-Semitic, propaganda going around, and you're doing nothing." And I said, "And why is that?" And he actually said, "Because there's too many of them."
Right.
What a bloody indictment is that from a police officer?
Well, I suppose what that says is that you need to up your numbers, and then maybe Sadiq couldn't get hold of you. But that's, sorry, I'm being facetious there. But
that's fine.
There's
too
many.
About this.
Well, exactly. There's too many of them. Too many of them. I mean, that is amazing, isn't it? Which just kind of says, if you've got enough people, then we'll just be very quiet and let them get on with it. And if there's only a certain amount, we can act as bully boys and take frail people, slam them against the wall, leave them in the cell for 8 hours, keep them confused, and all of that. And it's totally unacceptable, and it's not what the public expect from the police, especially as the police are supposed to be by our consent. Well, we know that's not the case, and we know that they're business corporations.
We're certainly seeing examples of that at the moment, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely. So, so you're in this sort of waiting game, or this decision of whether you're going to go to the Crown Court or what.
So we're up in Westminster. Originally, there were 2 different courts and 3 different dates.
Different dates.
But now it's all been
pulled
together. So we're all going to be at the same place, which is Westminster this Friday at 2 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Well,
Get there for what?
Martin says 1 o'clock.
Well, I beg your pardon.
No.
Because mine says 2 o'clock. So
you'll get there for 1, and if it's 2, you just have to wait an hour.
Yeah.
Don't turn up at 2 and it's all over.
From what I can gather from what's been said, that all 5 of them are going in together. They are going to be seen together.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to turn up at 1 o'clock, and if they say, "Oh, you're late," because I'm 5 past, well, I will show them my charge sheet that clearly states that I'm supposed to be there for 2 o'clock.
Yes. So, well, they can't get upset if you're there an hour early, surely.
Well, hopefully. Well, I don't know. They might come up with something,
something else.
Well, they did when we went to the Charing Cross for the first one. They kept Lloyd waiting for 45 minutes before they actually saw him. And sorry, we're running late. Martin was supposed to be in at 1. I think he went in about 15. Ali was supposed to be in at 2. And she actually got her in early. So by the time it was Nick's turn, they'd actually caught up completely, and they were actually now running an hour fast. So they were actually an hour in front of what Nick's allotted time was. So technically, Nick could have said, "Well, I'm not going in till 3 because I'm not due to be here till 3."
But a point about that also is, Ali had a solicitor coming, and because they got her in early. Of course, the solicitor wasn't there, so she wasn't represented when she went in. And I don't think the solicitor was that impressed about it. It shouldn't have happened. But there were no complaints about it, which, to my mind, there should have been. I think
if they run early, and you've got a set time, and you've got your solicitor or representative, whatever. Surely then it's down to you to, as you just said, I'm not going in till my allotted time. Thanks very much. It's your case, isn't it? It's your case to be heard. Yeah. It's not the convenience of them.
I think they actually said to Ali, that if she wanted to wait for a solicitor, they'd stick her in a cell until the solicitor arrived.
So a little bit of Hobson's choice there, basically, they could job her to go in without a solicitor, which is what she ended up doing.
Yeah. So here you are with your hearing coming up, and on this Friday at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, wherever. Have you got have you got advice? Have you got legal advice, lawful advice?
Yes.
What you're going to do?
Well, our solicitor, say the young lady that turned up, Janet, that night at Charing Cross, the man that she works for is representing us. Okay,
right. That's all we can say.
And that's all we can say because every time I speak to him, and I do understand this is a criticism, he hasn't had any paperwork from the CPS. Now, my understanding is that you're supposed to have 10 working days before a case that your paperwork should be there. But the CPS are overrun. And even when they weren't overrun, quite frankly, they don't really care about that because they give you less time to prepare your case. Now, can he ask for an adjournment? Are we going to get there? And he hasn't had the paperwork from the CPS? We don't know. We don't have to. I spoke to him yesterday. He said he was waiting for the prosecution bundles from the CPS, but they hadn't arrived. So come Friday, he said, but don't worry about it because it's just a plea hearing. Well, I am worried.
Well, of course, naturally. So
Marty's not here today. He's not very well. This has affected him hugely.
Yes.
I mean, it really has.
He's never been in trouble with the police in his life, and it's getting him down.
Yes.
And I'm dealing with him as best I can without too much upset because he doesn't really want to talk about it. But I'm just acting as me because that's who I am. and I will do whatever it takes to get him through this.
Absolutely.
I will do whatever it takes to get him through this. As I say, we were, when they were arrested, we were worried. We had a holiday booked. We wasn't sure whether we would be able to go, but he didn't have to surrender his passport or anything like that. So we were told, yep, you can go.
Yeah. So I mean, presumably all the physical violence and the way that you were arrested and the way that you were treated will be brought up, and the evidence given on your treatment.
That's the evidence that we will give forward. What the police give, we just don't know.
See, I just can't see what on earth case that they can make. I can't. You know, they can say that we might have swore, we might have shouted, we might have argued,
but that's not on the charge sheet.
But yeah, but that's it. We're not charged with that. We're charged with specifically harassing Sadiq Khan at that time, at that day, at that location.
Yes, and if he's not there, and you've got the proof that he's not there, how can you harass somebody if they're not there? I mean, harassing by proxy is presumably a different thing, you know.
His attempts to try to persuade public opinion by adding lies to this book, well, you can do as much as you like, but we're not charged with anything there. We're charged, as I just said, on that date that we've done a specific thing.
Yes, and his book is only hearsay anyway. It's only, you know, it's his testament, and it's not even it's not being submitted as evidence of any description, is it? Good, no. He's just trying to paint you guys and anybody who's anti-Ulez.
He's a clever man.
Yeah.
He's a lawyer.
I don't know who's reading the book. I mean, what are the sales like of this amazing book, Breathe?
Well, I'll tell you what, because that was one of the events that we went to. I'm afraid we went to his book launch at Festival Hall, wasn't it? Festival Hall, and well, it was so poorly attended, it was unreal. And then, of course, the media, because I watched the way they slant things after, they said, book launch in the, I think it was 1,700 people capacity hall, but it didn't mention how many people were actually there. So it wasn't a quarter full. It wasn't a quarter full, and it was hosted by James O'Brien, who is, if you know James O'Brien,
on LBC, is he?
Yeah,
that's the one.
Yeah, I mean, before he spoke, well, they had to extract him from Khan's rear end. The man loves him. You can't say. We also we heckled and we ended up being escorted out. So big deal. You know, he might not like that, but we don't like what you're doing. You know, to be charged with harassing someone who has absolutely ruined the lives of hundreds of thousands of people around our capital city, the irony is just mind-blowing.
It sounds as if the man himself should be arrested and put to trial.
Without doubt. We haven't gone away. People think that. I mean, obviously, I want to see what happens with the court case, but this fight for some sort of justice over Ulez has to continue, because everything about it, everything that implemented it, was lies. And we can prove all these lies, but when you've got a complicit media, you're trying to get this case over, it is head against a brick wall. It's extremely difficult.
Well, again, Sadiq Khan said that he wouldn't be introducing pay per mile. That's coming in 2025. And he said under his mayorship, it wouldn't happen. And that's exactly what he said about the Ulez expansion, that under his mayorship, it wouldn't happen. And it's happened.
And it's happened.
People have believed his lies. And you might say that we're conspiracy theorists, but we're not. I've never done anything like this in my life.
No.
I don't know if this is in the sort of remit of this conversation, but Sadiq Khan, the way that he has manipulated the public opinion and through the figures that have been falsified, there's no other way to put it, have been falsified. Not only falsified, they were actually altered at his request, even though he would deny it, he had a deputy named Shirley Rodriguez. Shirley Rodriguez interfered, and there is proof. There's absolute concrete proof. This isn't hearsay. This is provable. She attempted one time to interfere with Imperial College, which is the place where he gets most of his research done. Right. One time, the professor involved wasn't particularly interested in doing it. He said, "I want to cooperate," because say this is all evidence. He wants to cooperate. But the second time she did it, he actually altered the wording of his report at her request. And not only did he do that, once she had that report, she then reworded it again. Say, this is not a fairy tale. I'm not Enid Blyton. I haven't wrote I haven't wrote a silly story. This is fact, right? And we can prove it. It's all documented fact, as Dawn said. Right?
Sure.
That he got her. Now, conveniently, when he was re-elected. Now, he knows that a lot of people have been doing research around her, and she also interfered with Queen Mary College, Edinburgh, the same thing, asking them to alter documentation and data, and say, again, evidenced. So he's done that. But strangely enough, when he got re-elected, she
disappeared.
She didn't disappear straight away. No. She disappeared after, I think it was 2 or 3 days. But she tweeted the morning after the election, or even the night of the election, when they got the result, saying, "I'm back. It's Ulez what did it or done it," in some really basically patronising little way, in sort of common speak, because I'm going to talk down to peasants. Yeah. But then a few days later, she had disappeared. And I mean, I don't know if you are aware of her. She has connection. Well, she's not connection. She works for the World Economic Forum and C40 Cities, as does Khan. Khan, chairman of C40 Cities. So these people have conspired to falsify evidence to implement something that wasn't necessary. And it doesn't matter how many times, or what he says, the lies about the 4,000 deaths. And it is a total and utter lie, provable yet again, all about a mathematical construct that he then, even the people that did the research said should never be used because these don't represent real deaths. They actually said that in their report, but he's still done it. You had the consultation process that he interfered with and was caught interfering with, evidence yet again by Peter Fortune of the GLA confronting him with it and having to confess that he'd bought the cameras before the consultation process had even finished.
Oh, yes, I'd heard about that.
Yeah, it was total predetermination, absolute predetermination. But it never, even though that apparently was part of the judicial review that went in, it was dismissed. How can that be dismissed? But it was.
Very corrupt system that we have at the moment. Absolutely. So okay. So you're there on Friday, and presumably a number of your supporters will go and support you and be there for the verdict. And hopefully somebody will let us know so that we can let the audience know what happens. And if it's not a custodian sentence, and let's hope it isn't, maybe you can come back and tell us what happened in court.
We should certainly do that. I'm hoping I'm going to give him a nudge that Maya Tusi might come. Don't know yet. Maybe Paul Thorpe. And another. Oh God, I can't. Sorry, I've forgotten his name. Liam, but he's what's his name?
Liam Gowden.
Yeah, I've spoken to him about it, and he's actually interested in doing a documentary about the whole anti-Ulez movement. Hopefully, he will come. So we're not going to disappear. No. We're not going to. We're not the tree in the forest getting chopped down. No one's going to notice. People have to be aware of. Yes. As I said earlier, we are definitely the first, and I think one of the best examples of two-tier policing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds absolutely ghastly, and I'm sure that the audience are like me, have found it quite harrowing to hear what happened to you when you're peacefully protesting about something which, on the whole, it seems that nobody wants anyway, and that you've been.
He was quite happy for us to protest peacefully. He actually said that.
He's always saying that he's all for
peaceful demonstrations.
Yes,
but
yes. When it comes to action,
not in my backyard.
Not in my
exactly.
backyard.
You can do your peaceful presentations in Scotland, but not in London where it matters.
When I was going to see you or hear you, that's fine.
Yeah.
But
well, listen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for telling us the story. We're sort of running out of time. That's Dawn and Nick. And they're going to be, as you heard, they're in the dock on Friday.
I'm not.
Well, Dawn's not, but the 5 that were arrested. A terrible story. And, of course, loads of people want to protest about things which seem unfair. And quite rightly, they should have the freedom to do that if they're doing it orderly and not have the fear that a swarm of policemen from a completely different unit are going to come in and basically beat them up a bit, black and blue, and then have them sitting in, I nearly said dank, dark cells, but obviously it was a bright cell, but for a long, long time.
Yeah. It was dark. I could have had to sleep maybe. But.
Yeah.
We've also got a GoFundMe page that's been set up for...
Have you? What? And do you...
Sure.
Can you send me the link, or have you got a web page or anything like that explains, or YouTube channel with the footage?
Yeah.
If you can send me all of those.
Yeah, Jenna will do that. She's pretty good at stuff like that.
Oh, brilliant.
Just quickly talking about before you go into the GoFundMe. As far as I'm aware, we have been granted legal aid, but that only covers the legal expense. It's not going to cover. There is loads of other expenses.
Sure.
I mean, in an ideal world, they'd just say, no, off you go, off you trot. CPS is crap, you can go. But assuming, that we're not actually hung, drawn and quartered and it comes down to maybe fines, I don't, seriously, I have no expectations of what is going to happen when this actually gets to court.
Yeah.
So.
No, brilliant. Okay, so in the description, I will put what Gemma will send me, YouTube footage and all the other bits and pieces, the GoFundMe. But in the meantime, thank you so much for telling me about that. That's, I mean, the last thing we want to do is put people off for protesting, but we've got to show what goes on. And if there's corrupt police out there treating people badly and against all the lawful rules, then they should be definitely shown up for what they are. People will be interested to find out what happens on Friday, so do let me know and I'll announce it in the show. But in the meantime, thank you so much. That's very kind of you, ladies and gentlemen.
This off the record, can I just ask you something?
Yeah.
Did you watch the police did the press conference this morning with the family from Manchester? From the airport, from the
I have to be honest. I don't have a television anymore. I've been away, and so I've only literally been in a few hours.
You need to try to find it somewhere. Get it on YouTube. You will not believe what you see and hear.
I will check that out.
Basically, they might as well have had the trial there and then.
Right.
I've never seen anything like it.
Trial by media, by the sounds of it. Anyway, for the moment, just stay there and I'll say goodbye to you privately. But from our audience watching, thank you so much for watching. There you go. I'll let you know what happens as soon as I know. Check out the description. But I'll be back again with more monologues and more wonderful guests. But from Dawn and Nick and myself, thank you for watching. Till next time, goodbye.